We are playing against a very organized team, I must be honest, and a team that scores goals. A team that has got both their strikers now, they are on form. Mutizwa is come back. Gumede is still scoring goals. Sibiya is beginning to show his magic because he's one player that I believe could give Arrows so much, but sometimes maybe it does not work as hard. But at the moment, he's on fire, he's looking good. Pule Modi also is doing very well. Their central midfield of Dlamini, Ndwandwe, Mbele looks very exciting. The centre backs, Matiane together with CBC, or Zuke, because Zuke has played the last match. It's looking very good. Their fullbacks are always propelled, Dube and Nqele. So we know we are playing against a very organized team, but we have a responsibility as Sundowns to try and take the team to the final. So we will have to do our best to make sure that we keep a clean sheet. That is the starting point, and probably try to score a goal or two to make sure that we confirm our position in the final. But we know it's not going to be easy. With their transitions, they can be very dangerous. With their counter pressing, they can also destabilize your flow of the game. But we believe we've got a team that is capable of playing this match and going through if everything favors us.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to everybody. Coach, can I ask you, please, about Arrows have this kind of reputation for being a little bit unpredictable. Do you think that's a true reputation, or in these days where you do so much sort of study of them, that they're not as sort of, I don't know, wild or unpredictable as many people sort of picture them to be?
I would still say they are still very unpredictable, because even now when I gave you the lineup that I gave you, Arrows can change at any given time. Instead of Sibiya, you can find a Kongo. Instead of Mutizwa, Gumede is always likely to be in that place. So they have a lot of very, very interesting players who are very dynamic, who present different scenarios. And also the fact that they are playing with a lot of youngsters, that is where probably most of their unpredictability comes from, because with youngsters, you know, they are very inconsistent. But when it comes to big matches, they tend to raise their game to another level. And that makes it very difficult to understand whether the team you were watching against a Sikukune or an Amazulu would still perform the same way when they are playing Sundowns, because you know against Sundowns, chances are that they might give it a go and there's nothing to lose. There's less pressure. They have to, even if they lose the match, they know they would not have lost anything, because Sundowns is expected to win that match. So that makes it a very unpredictable game against us, because the level of intrinsic motivation can harm us if we take them for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatu. Morning, everyone. Morning, Coach. Coach, considering the quick turnaround of this match, are we likely to see a change of personnel with Sundowns on Tuesday? Thank you.
To be honest, even if there can be a change of personnel, I don't think there is much to change. You also don't want to tamper much with a winning team. You always want to try and build from there, because questions will be asked when you change a team that has done well, why? But probably one or two places where players had knocks, maybe stiff muscles and all that, we can consider that possibility. But at this stage, we are not looking at coming up with a totally different team, but we do have other players that are also looking good on the side. Depending on what we see tomorrow in training, when the players have recovered a little bit, then we'll be able to make a final call.
Morning. Coach, if there any more you can tell us on injuries you were talking about, you see how the players are. Are there any injury concerns that you have going into the match? And the second question is, you have always Sundowns has always been slow starters, but this time you look better. Does it give you more confidence that this year, you will lift the MTN8 Cup? Thank you.
Starting maybe from the injuries, one has not yet received a report from the doctors, but based on the game yesterday, we know Rivaldo came out with a cut, which we don't know the extent, maybe whether there is concussion and all that. Tembazwane had a stiff quad, but we did not take him out because of that. We think when he was warm, it faded away. From the players that were left behind, we know Kennedy also got a knock yesterday from training here. So that we still have Lebo outside. We are hopeful that, or even Promise Mngqithi is out, but we still have a very big squad to be able to compete in this match and give it all the necessary respect it requires, because at this stage, we can't be arrogant, because I don't think Arrows has performed bad from the beginning of the season. They've given their biggest shot, and they have not lost too many matches in the process. So that says they are still a very dangerous team, and they've always been dangerous against us in cup matches. So we have to give them the necessary respect and put maximum focus in the game itself. With regard to us not having started badly, I wouldn't say we normally start bad, because when I look at the records in terms of the first cycle in the league, we've always either one season where we had 7 points after the first 5 games, but many seasons we've always knocked around 11 or 13 points in the league. But in the MTN8, we've kind of struggled to pull it through. I remember a few games where we bombed out at Platinum Stars because maybe we're trying new combinations too early in the season, and that would cause problems for us. And there are some scenarios where we bombed out in the final against Vets. At that stage, the Champions League was very rife. It was in the final stages, in the semi-finals of the Champions League. I think we were playing Zesco in that space, and we did not have as much legs because there was also a lot of traveling during that time. And I also, in the semi-finals against Cape Town City, where I think we did very well. We were unfortunate. Some decisions did not favor us in Cape Town. And unfortunately, we bombed up out on the semi-final of that cup. So I would not say we've always generally started badly, but I would say in the MTN8, we've had different scenarios that have made us not to lift the trophy. And even now, we are very cautious of that because, like I'm saying, we did arrive in the final against Feds. We did arrive in the semi-finals against Cape Town City, but we've struggled to lift the trophy. So we must tread very carefully and make sure that we give it all the focus that is necessary.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Coach. Part of my question has been answered because I also wanted to ask you about the injuries. Tell me, can anyone read something in terms of your lineup? Because I'll tell you why. We'll see that people like Mvala on the bench when the game starts, they start late. Should one read something that probably those are the players that are going to play on Tuesday? That's one. And the other thing that I would like to know, the new striker, Diafranco, has he not come to the standard that you want? Or what is happening? And then Sereno, is he injured or what's the story? Thank you, Coach.
Okay. I would be lying if I say you must read something from the substitutes. I think in every match, we try to refresh the team towards the last 25, 30 minutes of the match, just to ignite a little bit more fire into the team and also to save ourselves from potential injuries, because some of our players, we know their history with muscle injuries and all that, and we try to take them out at a certain time, maybe when we feel the game has been a little bit more competitive. And yesterday, the field was a little bit heavy. We were a little bit worried that maybe some of the players might not might not be able to cope with the strain of that match and the forthcoming match. So there were many other reasons that made us to make substitutions. But the truth is, I would not want you to read anything from that. We can still start either way. And we can even start with the same team that started against Pirates. It will depend what we feel as coaches, what the medical team brings to us. And we also have other players that were outside that never played, whom we would want to give a chance, that have trained very well. George is one player that has also done exceptional work. If you can see him now, he has lost so much weight. He looks very sharp, and we are eager to give him an opportunity at some point. Kapinga is also looking good, and we must try to see what we can do, but without tampering much with the winning combination. So when it comes to Safranco, he has done well. He works very hard. He gives us what we want, but we can't just give the lineup to him when Peter is doing well, when Kermit has been doing well. You must fight for it, because once you start to show signs of favoring other players ahead of others, it does not help. But when a player ends his place and he realizes how difficult it is for him to get a chance to start a game, whenever he gets an opportunity to start a game, he will give it his best shot. We are happy with the progress that he's making. And in training, he's looking very good, and he's scoring a lot of goals for us. And we believe we've got a very long season. He is probably going to help us in this as the season goes along. But the truth is, at this stage, we also want to try and see when can we give him an opportunity to start a game. But the progress that he's making is really amazing, and we are happy with him. And as for Gaston, I think it was just a tactical switch. We felt we needed a player that is a little bit more direct on the right channel in front of Grant against the Pirates, because we wanted to try and exploit the space on the outside of the two center backs of Pirates, Tyson and Jele, and probably behind Paseka and Shandu. We wanted to have an impact in that space, and no wonder our first goal came from that. Kutu gave us the directness that we wanted. So instead of having both Mshishi and Gaston who would predominantly come into the half spaces inside, play out of the wing, we also wanted somebody that can give us wing play and really be a little bit more direct in giving us a chance to get behind the defense. So it can turn either way this time around. It can be Gaston starting, or Mshishi starting, or Kutumela starting, or even Neo Mayema starting. Pavol is also showing up his hand. Villa is showing up his hand. So we've got a lot of options to try and see which one can work for us, knowing the strengths of the team that we are playing against as well.
Coach, hope you're well. Tsapang from Sokala Duma. Coach, I just wanted to find out, you mentioned Promise Kuma when you were asked about injuries. I just wanted to check, is it something he picked up recently? Is that why we haven't been seeing him much? And I think on transfer deadline day, there was a talk of him possibly moving. Was there any chance of that happening?
The injury, he picked it up recently. He's been fighting very hard. He's been showing some very good signs. We know what he's capable of. Even the thinking of him going out on loan was to try and maximize the number of minutes that he can play this season, so that come next season is amongst the players that can really fight for their places, because we know what he brings to the team. But he's still very young, and it's not helping him not to play regularly, which is why we wanted him to go out where he could play regularly, because it's not very easy for him to find a place and stay in the team regularly within the team. But we are happy with the progress that he's making in training, and we are hopeful that when he comes back from this injury, he might give us a thing or two, because he presents a scenario very close to a Mayema, a Kutumela, a little bit more directness, which is very important in the modern game, to try and have those players that can also eliminate, be good on counter pressing. Their speed can help us, and their aggression can also help us in that space. So we are monitoring him very closely, and we are happy with the progress that he's making.
Thank you, Fatu. Coach, from the outside, like the team looks perfect. You're not conceding too many goals, if any. In front of goal, you are clinical. Which areas does the technical team think needs improvement? Because from the outside, it looks perfect. Thank you.
Because our challenge is more to try and refine our team for the Champions League. We know they make less mistakes in that space, more especially from the quarterfinal going up. So as a team, in as much as everybody is excited and happy that we are scoring goals, we are not conceding goals, but we still see moments like yesterday, for instance. If Dennis could have been the man of the match yesterday, I would not have been surprised because he pulled some very good saves. And as the technical team, we must be worried that how could Dennis have to make such saves if defensively we are solid, knowing very well that he also has a responsibility to help us. But we must also dig deeper in understanding why did opponents find a cross on our right channel, which nearly resulted in a goal, and Dennis made a brilliant save. Why in front of our defense in the zone 14 when Mabasa held the ball very well for Kabelo Dlamini to be able to take a shot. Why that area was so open for Kabelo to come freely in that space very late and be able to take that kind of a shot. So we can't sit in our laurels and say because we are getting clean sheets, it's all well and good. We are also missing a lot of opportunities that could easily have taken us maybe to 15 points now. If you remember the game against Chippa, where we made some silly mistakes in front of goals. We had a very big chance first half with Peter. Unfortunately, he could not clip it on top of the keeper. And second half, we came in very strong, but we could not get a goal. So we can't settle, knowing very well what happened even last year in the Champions League. Al Ali got 2 opportunities away from home, and they scored both goals. And those 2 opportunities in South Africa would have said those were even half chances. They were not even clear-cut chances. The first goal, Mohamed coming inside and curling it in the top corner on the far side for Dennis. And the second one, poor rest defense and Dennis misjudging the ball and immediately say goal. But when we make such mistakes in South Africa, at times we don't get punished. But in the Champions League, there's little room for mistakes, more especially against North Africans. So that is why we have always to be vigilant and not be satisfied with the little bit of success that we have, because there's still so much to worry about. I don't think we are scoring enough goals considering the number of chances we create. I think we are still around 30-35% in terms of our conversion rate, and that is not very good. And there are games where we don't even have as many shots at goals, let alone shots on target. So those are areas that we must consistently fight to improve. And individual players per position, they also know they've got areas that they have to improve on in their game. As a midfielder, how many times do you have assists? How many times do you make a box entry? How many times do you take shots at goals? Because those are interesting statistics that we must always look at. Like, for instance, when we went to play Pirates, Mabasa had scored as a midfielder. Mosele had scored as a midfielder, making those late runs into the box. And if other teams can do that and other players can do that, and against Al Ali, we've always been punished by Sulaya, who is a number 8. And that number 8 predominantly creates goals and scores goals. And even in our team, we are fighting very hard to create that culture, not just to settle for good performances that do not yield anything. So the truth of the matter is we have a lot to work on to make sure that we sharpen our team for the Champions League.
Thank you for the last question. I was going to ask you about the defense, but you've given a very fulsome answer. You have a club record at the moment, 7 matches in a row in the league without conceding. Last question then. So the one guy you didn't mention in the injury list is Mudau on the right-hand side. I thought he played very well the first few games of the season. How is he and when is he back?
Yeah, I mean, that one is also worrying us because we're all very excited with his performances, and you are very right. He was outstanding in the first 2 matches that he played. Big game for him was the game against Chiefs. I also think he played very well in that space, but unfortunately, he's had a hamstring that we thought, and the diagnosis was that it's a grade 1, and he came in and also felt something, and we felt, hey, let's not risk it because we might still need him. So at this stage, I cannot tell you when are we going to have him back, but I don't think it will be more. Probably after the FIFA break, he might be back in the team.